Hello, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr. Well, the Eagles broke our hearts on Sunday against the Cowboys, losing a critical game in the final quarter with critical mistakes. We'll be talking that as well as the Philadelphia Flyers. Starting off the season, 500 so right now, and we're going to be talking all about their recent victories against the Red Wings and Hurricanes. So stick around for more right after this.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome back. Well, Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys, we used a critical division game in Dallas. We were up with plenty of time to go, but the fourth quarter came to this weird point where we give it to Smallwood, he fumbles. We had a fake punt against us earlier in the game, and it really just broke us apart, and then critical mistakes, play calling at the end of the game really were a critical reason why the Eagles lost. Now, I want to welcome my guests today. I have Josh Abrams, I have Elvis Chilakis, and then for the first time, I have Dana Pecora on for the first time. Thank you so much for coming on to talk some Eagles and Flyers.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so let's talk about the summary of the game. Eagles, basically, the big guy for them was Darren Sproles, really came to play. 15 rushes for 103 total yards with the 5 receptions. Jordan Matthews had the 1 touchdown catch. And Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys really was a difference maker with 148 total yards. And honestly, they could have used them even more. But let's start with you, Josh. Tell me your thoughts about this game.
Well, obviously, as you said, it was a heartbreaker. And this was a really important game. I thought we were going to be able to pull it out. But obviously, we played well for about 3.5 quarters. We weren't able to finish the fourth. As you said, critical play calls, mistakes. I always say about close games that there's always, everything matters. And, as soon as you make that one mistake, everything can go downhill. And that's essentially what happened on Sunday night.
Dana, do you agree with Josh?
I do. It was disappointing. A Cowboys-Eagles game, they're always so hyped up. They're always so intense. It's been a long-time rivalry, and I don't really think it's a secret that Doug Peterson can take a lot of the blame, if not most of it. There was many critical plays that if he had made a different decision, that we could have won this game. We could have kept control of the game, especially the punt when we could have kicked the field goal. So it's just things like that that make it really frustrating.
Speaking of that punt, Elvis, for me that seemed like a critical part of the game just because the defense played well on that series right before that fake punt happened, and we had momentum. We were up by, I think, like 10 at that point, and I don't know where we get the punt run on us by the punter runs for a first down and more, really. Tell me about that. What did you think? Did you think the Eagles just totally messed up on that? Should they have been ready for it, or what do you think?
This was my reaction to the game. I'm like, yeah, we got the ball back, and what are they doing? They ran almost down the field with that punt, and it basically, in my own opinion, it changed the momentum of that game. It was unexpected, and it caught the defense, especially the special teams that is coached by the great Dave Phipp. They were completely caught off guard. So the only thing I can say about that punt is just like expect the unexpected, and Eagles will run the fake punt against the Giants. You heard it here first.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I want to say that the special teams for the Eagles has been kind of like a double-edged sword, it seems. Like, we get a lot of kick returns. We're doing well in that regard. But it seems like there's a lot of boneheaded mistakes on the special teams, especially in terms of punts, in terms of tackling, or penalties-wise. That's been really a critical problem for us for every part of the team. Josh, going back to probably, what did you think was the biggest reason for the loss? Do you think it was just play calling? Do you think it was just down the stretch critical mistakes that the team made that even the coaches couldn't have really fixed?
Well, I mean, that's a very hard question. I mean, as I said before, in close games like this, everything matters. I can't stress that enough. obviously at the very end of the game when I don't know who was on our defense, but those two of our guys collided, and I forget who caught the game-winning pass, but he was wide open.
Yeah.
And that should never happen.
Jason Witten.
Yeah, Jason. That's what I thought. And then as we were just talking about the play calling, Smallwood's fumble, the punt when they probably should have kicked it when Sturgis hit it earlier. Everything mattered. And a big thing for me was that they need to be able to finish their drives with touchdowns instead of field goals. Now, obviously, when you get points on the board, that's a very positive thing. It gives you more confidence and probably gives you more confidence in your defense. But if you're able to finish the drive with touchdowns, I think that's going to make a huge difference in the game.
Well, let's talk about who's going to be a reason for those touchdowns. The one touchdown pass in the game for the Eagles was thrown by Carson Wentz. Versus Dak Prescott, this is a rookie duel that we see for many years to come in this division especially. And you see the stats. Carson Wentz threw 43 times for only 202 yards. Dak Prescott was able to get that final touchdown in overtime, drove down the field, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception. Dana, talk about these two quarterbacks. Obviously, Carson, for the most part, seemed like he did a solid job. He just didn't get a chance to really throw downfield.
Yeah, I definitely think that Carson Wentz did do a solid job. I wouldn't blame any of this loss on him. I would say that Dak Prescott does have more weapons than Carson Wentz does, and I think that was the ultimate difference between the players. Dak Prescott has Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got hands to throw down the field to, where Carson Wentz is very limited and in that field. So,
now, Elvis, do you think that the Eagles' offensive coordinators and possibly offensive coordinator and Doug Peterson are limiting what Carson Wentz can do? Are they holding him back, fearing that they don't want to put him too far out there and not having him throw down the field passes? Or is it just because the receivers are just not good enough?
I don't personally think that Frank Reich and Doug Peterson are holding back Carson. It's just Carson doesn't have any weapons. Going back to the wide receiver conversation, there was a cartoon in the Philadelphia Inquirer that showed like Dak Prescott with like 2 guns, and it was Ezekiel Elliott and Des Bryant, and then you see Carson Wentz on the field with a water gun. He has no weapons at all. Can you imagine how well Carson Wentz can do with weapons like Des Bryant and Jason Witten on the field? It would be a totally different story this season. And it's just, we have no weapons like we used to have with Macklin and a deep threat like Deshaun Jackson. We have none of that, and we desperately need help at the wide receiver corps.
And let's break it down in terms of a receiver that we counted on. I mean, he didn't really have much in the receiving game, but in the return game, and Josh Huff was released after the report that came out. He was arrested on Tuesday morning, earlier, right after the game against the Cowboys. And he had a weapon in the car, was speeding on the Walt Whitman Bridge, and the Eagles decided, Howie Roseman and company said they had to let him go. Do you think this was the right decision? And where do the Eagles go from here in losing a wide receiver?
It's tough to make that decision, especially since I don't think any of us have any experience in that field that Howie Roseman and them do, but this is a huge disappointment. Josh Huff was our spark on special teams. He returned that kick against the Vikings, and he's just been our momentum changer on special teams. And there's really nothing more I can say. Of course, we would love to have him on the team, but do you want that missed discipline, or do you want that kind of player on the team that does that kind of stuff off the field? Probably not.
Now, Dana, it seems that the Eagles have had a lot of off the field issues. I mean, with a lot of things to do with weapons and stuff, and just players just being in the wrong place at the wrong time and just doing boneheaded things. Where do the Eagles go from here in terms of really disciplining their players? Do you think this is a wake-up call to say, look, you guys got to act like professionals?
Yeah, well, I definitely think that this decision was kind of their line in the sand. They were like, you know what, we have to make a statement. Nigel Bradham, he got arrested twice, and they kind of let the courts decide on that. They kept him, and they let the courts decide what they wanted to do with Nigel Bradham. And I guess when Josh Huff got arrested, they were like, enough's enough. We have to make a statement. We can't let these players, make these stupid choices. And so I think that's I think that's definitely a big part of the reason as to why they decided to release Josh Huff.
Now, Elvis, kind of piggybacking off of Huff, and also just where the Eagles go from here in terms of the receivers. Who is going to have to step up now that you just lost another guy? Possibly, maybe we'll see a Pat Turner maybe coming from the practice squad. Where do they go from here in terms of that department of their team?
Definitely. Jordan Matthews, DGB, all the other wide receivers, and tight ends especially, they need to step up desperately in situations like this. And like you said, maybe Paul Turner or maybe Bryce Treggs might come up from the practice squad and actually provide different weapons for Carson Wentz. Bryce Treggs is a guy that we got from San Francisco who is a deep threat. We desperately need a deep threat because, like we mentioned in the game before, Carson Wentz was just throwing check downs like Bradford used to do last year. And it just seems like on the field, it looks like Carson Wentz is afraid to go downfield when in reality, like I said before, he has no weapons. So we need our wide receivers to desperately step up, and we need them to catch the football most importantly, because Nelson Aguilar and Jordan Matthews making those drop passes, it really brought my blood pressure up.
Well, this week against the New York Football Giants, another division team, again for the Eagles, the NFC East, we'll be playing them. Let's check out the picks of the week, and we'll start with you, Elvis. You picked the Eagles. Zach Ertz, a player that may step up, you didn't mention, but a guy you think can help this team. MVP 28-17. Tell me why you think that.
He is just practically, in my own opinion, he's bound to have one of those breakout seasons. We didn't give him that contract last year because he's going to disappoint us and underperform. His second half resurgence last year, where we saw where he was just barreling down people on the field and just making excellent blocks and excellent catches, he needs to step up, and I think this is the game that he will step up. He had a very great game against the Giants last year, and I hope that translates into this game, especially with how the Giants cornerbacks, some of them were injured, like Eli Apple, and they had really struggled tackling tight ends, especially guys like Zach Ertz. So he's bound to step up and to at least deliver some of the stress away from Carson Wentz.
Now, quickly, Dana and Josh. Dana, you have Connor Barwin. You have the Eagles winning. Why do you have Connor Barwin as your MVP of the game?
Actually, I have Brandon Graham.
Oh, you have Connor Barwin. Is that it? Okay, switch it up. Yep.
But I have Brandon Graham because I think he's had a great season. In my opinion, like we can hope, Eli Manning can't take that pressure. So I'm hoping to see Brandon Graham definitely deliver, maybe sack or two, cause a fumble, definitely just put Eli Manning in a bad position to hopefully make a couple bad plays, you know. And
Josh, you have Connor Barwin. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that actually has kind of been shaky in terms of coming off last year, had a solid season. Why do you have him as your MVP?
I saw him play really well against the Vikings, I guess 2 weeks ago now, and even though the Vikings don't have great of an offensive line, the Giants are right around them with their offensive line. So I think Barwin can have the effect on Sunday's game like he did against the Vikings.
Now, I have the Eagles as well. I actually have Carson Wentz as my MVP of this game. And I think hopefully this is the week where they have to let him really take some change some chances down the field. 30-17 for the win. It's a game we need. I mean, you cannot go 0-3 in this division like this. But that's going to do it for the Eagles because we're going to go into a commercial now, go into the Flyers later. I do want to thank Elvis Chalakis for coming on talking Eagles. He'll be leaving, and Kevin Cook will be coming on to talk some Flyers with Dana and Josh. They're going to stick around. So please, we'll be right back after the commercial break.
Hi, this is Eddie Dunn, host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. I'm here today to tell you to watch LaSalle TV. Though if you're seeing this commercial, that means you're already watching LaSalle TV. So I guess keep it up. You're doing an awesome job. I hope you like what you're seeing.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show, Flip.
I gotta keep up, so news you can use has to be my favorite.
I love LaSalle Sports, so Sportsline is my favorite TV show.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show with the psychology department, Relationships 101.
I love Backstage Pass. It's my favorite show.
We love LaSalle TV.
SportsTalk Philadelphia.
Q&A, I love that show.
It's gotta be LaSalle TV News.
I love LaSalle TV.
Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr., and we're going to be talking a little Flyers. So Philadelphia Flyers have started off their season. They're 5-5-1. They got 2 wins against the Hurricanes and Red Wings in their last 2 contests, and they've kind of had some a shaky start in the sense that they're doing well on power play, but their penalty kill is struggling. I think they're 24th in the league in terms of their penalty kill. Josh, to start it off, tell me just a little bit what you've seen so far this season, and has it been disappointing so far, or do you think they're kind of where you thought they were going to be?
Well, I'm probably going to be saying this throughout the entire season, but the word fight is what I think of when it comes to the Flyers. We can be down 3-0 as we were last week against the Sabres. We were down 2-0 against the Red Wings the other day, and we come out with a victory, which is really all that matters. But there are some ups and downs on the season so far anyway. We're only 11 games in, but we have a high-octane offense and a low-octane defense, which is kind of different from last year. So I'll probably elaborate on that later, but we do have time to improve, but as of right now, I'm okay with where we're at.
Now, Dana, he just mentioned, Josh, that the Flyers are basically 13-4 in the first period. That's how much they're down. So they're coming back from a deficit, and that's got to be tough. That's got to be a struggle for them. They've been able to do it, but obviously that's not going to be something they're going to be able to continue the whole season, or it's just going to eventually, they're just going to run out of firepower to come back. What have you seen, and do you think they can improve this?
I definitely think they can improve this. Like you said, it's as a fan, it's worrisome because they're down and you don't know if they're gonna make the comeback. But I do think that they have a very strong offense. I mean, Giroux leads the league in points, or is at least tied. I mean, Voracek's up there as well. We got the new guys. We have Konechny. So I definitely think that hopefully this can be improved upon, and we can start taking leads instead of coming back to tie it up.
Now, Kevin, so far, like I mentioned before, 5-5-1 to start the regular season. What have been the bright points? Obviously, we said power play has been really solid for them. Their offense as a whole, it is a change from last year. So do you think that this is a good direction, that their offense is playing well, and hopefully their defense can come around?
Yeah, the offense is definitely playing well right now. And last night, Voracek lit the lamp for another time. I think he's tied for the league lead with maybe 6 goals now. So all in all, the offense is playing very well. So going forward for that looks really promising for the Flyers. But as everyone else has talked about, we really need the defense to start stepping up. And if it's not from the defense, it's got to be from the one in net, whether it be Neuwirth or Mason. Just one of those 2 goalkeepers needs to step it up for the Flyers and start to play much better.
Yeah, let's get some Flyers stats up just to kind of see where we're at so far this season. So yeah, we have Voracek, who had 1 goal and 3 shots so far this season. Josh, speak a little about Voracek in terms of what you've seen so far. Obviously, trying to come off a down year last year. Do you think that he's going to have a bounce back year?
Oh, of course. So far, I think he's on pace to maybe lead the league in goals, or maybe be top 5 in goals at the worst. He's been a very, very big, he's been a very big player so far compared to last year when he got off to that slackish kind of start. So obviously, it's a huge potential, very, very positive way to start out for him. Everyone else is stepping up too, as Kevin and Dana just mentioned. Giroux is tied for the league lead in points, and Wayne Simmons as well. Wayne Simmons has also been very solid, tied for second with 12 points so far. So that's our big 3. That's our core offensive players right there.
Now, Dana, you got to see up close the Red Wings win for the Flyers in overtime. Tell me what you saw in the Flyers game and able to pull it off in overtime.
It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions, that game. We were down really quickly in the first period, 2-0. Didn't answer that until second period. So it was definitely exciting to see. We tied it back up with 1 minute left. We had all of the kind of like the scrubs scoring. We had Van de Velde score his first goal of the season, and we had Lubimov, sorry if I really screwed that one up, scored his first NHL goal. So that was nice to see some of those players getting goals in. And then obviously the overtime was really, really intense. Neuwirth had an okay game, I would think. His second goal, he probably should have had the save, but they pulled it out in the end, and that's what's important.
Now, Kevin, I think you mentioned before about kind of the goalies. So far, Steve Mason is 2-4 this season. What do you think that the goalie situation is going to be like so far this year, or for this year in general?
I mean, we knew going into the season that it was going to be a sticky situation in net. The Flyers have been looking for a good goaltender for a very long time now. They tried finding one with Brizgalov, and we all know how that turned out. So going forward, you just really hope that one of these guys gets the hot hand, and then when he runs out, then the other one picks it up. And hopefully they continue to carry that into the playoffs and can get lucky.
Now, we'll stick with you, Kevin. Do you see a team that is going to get back in the playoffs this year? Do you think this team can figure out some of their woes? And obviously the season's long. It's going to be grueling. You don't know injuries. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. But do you see a trajectory where they will be a team, even if it's the end of the edge of, I guess, the conference?
I do think that this team's going to make it back in the playoffs. I think one of those two goalies will pick it up sooner or later, and the offense, as we've been talking about, has been playing extremely well. And if they continue to play like this, they're going to be one of the better offenses in the league. And then I think with more games under their belts for players like Ghost, but also for other rookie players like Konechny and even Provorov, I think that defensively this team will begin to blossom, and we'll see a well-rounded Flyers team.
Now, Dana, the Flyers basically have started off the season in a, I would say, kind of a 500 state, as we said before, 5-5-1. Do you think that in this next stretch of games, if they're coming off 2 victories, that they're going to continue this hopefully momentum? Do you think that they're going to actually try to figure out what will they try to do to fix their defensive problems?
I sure hope that they keep the streak going. I think that there is an issue with the goaltending, as Kevin said. You know, they kind of are in like a sticky situation, trying to figure out who's performing better. We do have Manning, who's been probably the best D-man of the season, in my opinion. We do have Gudas. So I think that with a little bit of work and a little bit of coaching decisions, we can hopefully try to keep pulling these wins out.
Now, Josh, quickly, who has been so far this season the brightest spot for the Flyers, or maybe a surprise for you so far?
I'd honestly say that Voracek has been the surprise. I know he has had good years except for last year, but he's had a very good season so far. As Dana said earlier, that he is one of the league leaders in goals. And then Drew as well. I'm surprised he hasn't been scoring as many goals this year as he did before, but he does have 11 assists, so that's always a good thing when he's contributing to the offense some way, somehow.
Well, let's hope that the Flyers can continue their success, and that's going to do it for Flyers Talk, but we're going to go into Fast 5 right now. So let's start it off with you, Josh. Will the Cubs, because they just did win the World Series, 108-year drought is over, will the Cubs win another World Series in our lifetime?
I don't see why not. I mean, that team is so young, except, you know, when you take into account that they have Chris Bryant, who is only in his 2nd year of playing baseball. He's really going to help this team out if, obviously, the front office manages well. Anthony Rizzo as well. He's their second, you know, their big slinger, their big hitter behind Bryant. Jason Hayward, he's been a little bit of a disappointment in his career, but he stepped up big in Game 7. And just in general, that like I said, that entire team is so young. I really don't see why they don't go back to another World Series and win 1 or 2 more.
Kevin, let's talk a little Sixers. We haven't mentioned in the show. Big trade, Jeremy Grant for Ersan Ilyasova. What do you think of the move?
I was a huge supporter of Jeremy Grant, so I was kind of sad to see him go. But, I mean, you also see they're getting back a 2020 first-round pick. I mean, who knows what that'll be like down the line. But if it's from OKC, so if maybe Russ Westbrook leaves, they probably won't be good that year. There are some protections on that, but overall, I think that was a good move.
Dana, Eagles 4-3 so far this season. What do you think is now, after this start, a reasonable record for them to have, and that at least the city can deal with when the season comes to a close, especially with a first-year coach in Doug Peterson?
I don't know. It's really hard to predict. This Eagles team is so unpredictable, as most Philadelphia sports teams are. So, I mean, I don't know if I can put an actual record together, but we can only hope for the best. You got to be positive being an Eagles fan. So.
Now let's go to you, Josh. Let's stick with the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles have now lost their 2 of their last 3 games. They're in a critical game against the Giants. How many touchdowns will Carson Wentz throw this game to get the victory?
Well, I predicted that they would only score 20 points, but I would like to see Carson Wentz have a breakout game and throw maybe 4 touchdown passes. That would be my that's my hope for this game.
I hope for it as well. Kevin, let's end it with you. The Phillies today, or I guess we're going to be replaying this, but the Phillies released or finally did not pick up the option on Ryan Howard, so that pretty much ends it. We already knew it was coming to an end anyway, but I guess what's the best memory quickly of Ryan Howard? World Series, maybe home runs, or give me a moment that you think you always remember.
There are definitely plenty of great moments from him, but I think the one in 2009, they showed a picture of him with his head sitting down on the bat, and then he stepped up to the plate and hit the go-ahead hit to give the Phillies the lead against Colorado. So that's probably it.
Ryan Howard, we're going to miss you. I mean, I know people hate him, but I love him. That's going to do it for Sports Talk Philadelphia. I want to thank my guests for coming on. Kevin Chalakis, who was on for Eagles Talk. Kevin Cook to talk on Flyers. Dana Procara, coming first time. You did so well. As well as Josh Abrams. Basically, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. This is airing at 10:30 on Thursdays, so please check us out. And yeah, you can follow us, all of us on Twitter on our handles. I'm Tommy McIntyre Jr. Please tune in every week. Thank you so much.